Hey, buddy.
Hey, Kelley.
Good morning.
My feet are wet.
Yeah, mine are too, but I got my socks off and they're drying out now.
Do my footprints, eventually evaporate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Another beautiful Saturday morning in the greater Austin, Texas area.
We've been cleaning up. The weather's been pretty nice the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little bit of will they, won't they with the clouds and rain and all that, but temperature-wise, I think it's been pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely like the upper range of what I like the temperature to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just dreading what's next, but trying to appreciate what we got while we have it.
Yeah, because we have already been warm once or twice, I am getting hit with that whole brain confusion of, are we about to enter my favorite season? No, quite the opposite.
Yeah, my allergies have been kicking my ass the last. It's
Really?
almost been like 2 weeks now.
Hmm.
Yesterday and today they seem to be a bit better, although I'm wondering how they're gonna handle having just been out in the nature with all the plants trying to have sex with my face.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much pollen in our front yard right now, like it's wild.
You're talking about the brown stuff that cakes up in the driveway?
Like little pollen.
The house across from
Little
us
things.
is renters, and they just moved out last week.
Yeah.
And forever, their kids have been playing basketball in the driveway, and cars been going and going. But 1 week of no cars, no movement in the driveway, and it is covered in pollen. Not the powdery yellow stuff, but the brown, tree shavings-ish looking stuff.
Like the actual thing the pollen comes out of from
I
the
guess.
tree.
I guess.
Little pods or whatever.
Yeah. But it's like a blanket of it on the driveway.
They look almost like little corn cobs.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something. I don't really get allergies, except for doing leaves, or last week I took a rake and raked up all the dead grass in the backyard
Mm-hmm.
so we could plant new seed. If it's something where there's just a lot of dust and I'm just gonna be spitting dust anyways,
Yeah.
then I can get allergies. But typically I don't get it. Ash gets wrecked by them.
I normally don't. I mean, there's usually I guess on average there's a couple days in the spring and then a couple days in the fall, where the weather's changing.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll kind of get me going a little bit, but it doesn't usually last for that long. This time, this is the worst I've experienced in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and again, it's not all that bad. I'm not sick. It's just blowing my nose quite a bit and a little bit of a cough. But like I said, I've been feeling better yesterday and even a little bit today. But yeah.
Ash will get a sinus headache, and then a couple that she trains, they're kind of friends, and she'll text them and be like, allergies, question mark, and we'll be like, oh, we're getting wrecked over here. And then we know.
Yeah.
That it's not COVID or whatever. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the first times in a long time where I've had almost a sinus headache. I can
Mm-hmm.
feel up on the back of my head, and up in my sinuses a little bit, pressure. It's just this is dumb.
Word.
Humans are dumb. How do we survive this long and still have allergies? Stupid.
Yeah. That's a good question. Maybe it's a good question. Maybe it's a dumb question.
Maybe we used to be good with them, but now we're just weak bitches because we live inside and don't have to be out in the fields all the time or whatever.
Where people always had it, but there was so much hardship in life that they were I don't care about this minor headache. I can't feel my toes.
Yeah. When the average age to die, I was 32.
Yeah.
Funny.
Disc golf today, kind of just more of the same. We skipped some people. I was thinking when we skip the people, that's a thing that Jeremy and I have to put up with. That if it's something fun and something worth doing, there's going to be a lot of people that want to do it.
Right.
So there is like an etiquette for dealing with people that are right ahead of you or behind you. And every time we're like, nah, fuck all that. I'm just going to go to hole 7.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it feels like a really like cool, really awesome course where like every hole was like fun and beautiful and stuff. I'd feel more inclined to play by the actual rules, but with this course we've been playing, and I want to go at my own pace. I don't want to have to worry about anyone right behind me. I don't want to worry about waiting for people in front of me. There were, I feel like, too many people just walking around on the trails today that could have gotten killed.
It was a nice morning. Yeah, I think the course punches above its weight as far as, it's just a small municipal park. And, yeah, lots of people there, but doesn't get weekly maintenance, probably gets, like, monthly maintenance. But the holes, I think, are pretty good for... I mean, the punches above its weight is where I'm going to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're going to try and find another course to go to next weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to find one just a little less treacherous.
How well do you remember Circle C and Mary Morrissey, right?
Fairly well.
Yeah.
I don't remember Circle C all that well, but I remember Mary Moore Seawright pretty well because we played that one a ton.
A ton. Those are great holes.
Really were.
There's another one of those up here. I think that the one we're at approaches that, but doesn't have the majesty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who did you make me talk to today?
I didn't make you talk to them. You didn't even talk to them, but I said that if there was going to be talking done, you were going to take point.
It's like 3 Jehovah's Witnesses?
I don't even know what they were doing. They had a sign talking about peace. And then you're like, is that about Gaza and Israel and stuff?
Yeah, when we got closer, it was Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even look. I was just, my eyes were just on the ground.
I gave them the good morning, ladies, the hand over the heart. And they gave us a good morning back, and that was that.
Yeah. Crisis averted.
Indeed. Big media week. Or do you have any football news before we go to media?
Still no football.
I saw just some McAfee rumors. The Vikings hired a coach that taught Drake May in high school.
Yeah, saw that.
Yeah. So the Vikings, they traded up into the first round, so now they have 2 first-round picks. And they might be doing further trading to get like into the top 3 to get Drake May.
Yeah.
And then supposedly, some Cowboys coach is tied to the UT running back who did well at the Combine, but also tore his ACL in November.
Ugh.
But he did well at the Combine, so he's got to be back from that.
How do you come back from an ACL in 5 months?
Right?
That's weird.
But yeah. Cowboys still Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn at the running back position.
Yep.
See what happens there. Media chat?
Sure.
Alright. We finished Ted Lasso, which is something that you were super duper high on.
Yep, still am.
Great show, wonderful show. I liked. You think it's okay to spoil when we talk about it?
Yeah, there's like 2 people listening.
Excellent cast, excellent story, excellent writing, excellently filmed and executed. Liked everything about it. I liked how the interpersonal relationships and the character growth and the emphasis on growth for each of the individuals was even more important than winning it all. Which I think another show that we finished was season 3 of True Detective,
Yeah.
and something that's true of both of these shows, even though they're incredibly different, couldn't be more different, is like each of them takes on a style and a theme that's unique to them, and then you get to the very end, and there's a trope. There's something these shows could be derivative of, where in the True Detective and the crime solving, it could be this. It's not. And then Ted Lasso, similarly, it could be that like upteenth show where like everybody comes together and we win the championship. And it's not that.
Yeah.
But it's better for it.
Yeah.
Something I was telling you in the car that I didn't get stylistically, or I didn't get what the creators, producers, whatever, were trying to tell us, is at the very, very end, like the last 2 frames, or 2 seconds, is Ted Lasso looks directly into the camera. He's like back in the U.S., he's coaching his kids' soccer, which is like the kid and the family and his own overcoming the divorce or whatever.
Right.
Is the most important thing. And then I didn't get why he looked at the camera or like what the thing was there, because usually when you see that, it's like a smirk. It's like something between the audience and the person doing it, like if Ferris Bueller does it or Kevin Spacey in that politics show or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't get what was trying to be conveyed with Ted Lasso doing it.
It's been a while now since I've seen it, so I can't speak directly to it, but I like to think he just was trying to be like, hey, you got this.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe.
I don't know. Whatever it was positive.
Almost certainly, yeah. A great show. Highly recommend. Especially because you had mentioned this with True Detective, that's very off character for us. Really any kind of drama is going to have like some heavy stuff. And this show is not without its tearjerkers. I do think it went like a full season. I don't think it was just like season... No, that's not true. It is remarkably positive almost all the time. And in a more deep and satisfying way than a show like Modern Family is always positive, or Parks and Rec is always positive, or those are like comedies. And there is comedy in Ted Lasso, and you could call Ted Lasso a comedy, but it's really a drama that's less dramatic, more comedic.
A dramedy.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's what they say about Parks and Rec and those other shows, but the balance is totally different.
Comma.
Okay. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And then, I mean, from there, I go into Masters of the Air. So we decided that we were going to watch 2 episodes during the week and then talk about them on the pod.
Yep.
For the listener, Masters of the Air is Tom Hanks's third thing with HBO, I think is fair to say. He's done other World War II stuff. But...
Is it HBO? It's on Apple.
Oh, you're right. Well, then how do you want to say it? Third World War II miniseries?
Yeah.
Obviously Band of Brothers. Then The Pacific. And now Masters of the Air, where Band of Brothers was... like following the one first, following like from Tarakoa and like training in the U.S. to D-Day and all the way through like winning victory in Europe.
Yeah.
The Pacific, similar but different. A lot of people, I mean, Band of Brothers, like when it came out and like still stands the test of time, is a lot of people's favorite World War II anything.
Yeah.
For a lot of great reasons, which we'll kind of touch on here, I guess. Pacific, everybody wanted it to be Band of Brothers, and it wasn't. It was much more, here's the, these are human characters, like what we put these humans through, and I don't know, there was that in Band of Brothers. It's hard to describe why they're so different and why people didn't like Pacific as much.
I never actually saw Pacific.
It's very different. And then this one, Masters of the Air so far, is similarly different. in the Pacific, where it feels more like a drama soap opera that's set in World War II versus somehow Band of Brothers didn't. It was that, but it didn't feel like that. And I think for myself, when I was watching Masters of the Air, something that everybody loves about Band of Brothers is that it's a constant. Like literally every episode, and like multiple times in an episode, there's multiple ethics lessons in ethics, and your classic, like a lot of the things that I was taught in like ROTC, like whenever you would do these scenario lanes, and you have a squad, and there's like other people in the program acting out the good guys and bad guys on the lane. A lot of those scenarios are like plucked from Band of Brothers, and it's cool stuff like that. And there were lessons in these 2 episodes, but it is more, I don't know, more soap opera-y to me. You have any initial thoughts on Master of the Air? Or any of that I just said?
No, I think you're pretty spot on. Initial thoughts of Masters of the Air. I don't know. Maybe, I'm definitely enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if I'm enjoying it as much as I thought I would.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's still time. Because, there's so many characters, and you gotta learn all their names, and they don't help by making the names, significantly different than each other.
Like there's a Buck and a Bucky?
Yeah, that kills me. And, they kind of even, make fun of it in their own world, too, But still, come on, try a little harder.
These are real people, though.
It's
That's
not
what
that
actually
funny.
happened.
Still. But, what I'm really enjoying a lot is I think this show is doing a really good job putting you in a B-17 during the missions, and you're you feel the stress and the gravity of the situation way more than maybe anything else I've ever watched.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Memphis Belle, which is a whole movie that's basically this show but just in a movie form.
Mm-hmm.
Even in these first 2 episodes, it's dang, that was not a cool thing to have to do to get into one of those planes and to do that job.
Yeah. So, episode 1, they fly their squadron from... I think it's called a squadron. Or a wing. I don't know what that formation is called. Sorry, guys. But they get the planes from the U.S. to Greenland to Britain, and they fly their first mission, which from, comparing it to Band of Brothers, episode 1 is almost entirely, the training that goes on before all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But the 3 things that I took away from the first episode... the quote that I wrote down is these kids are from all over America.
Yeah.
And I like the setting and the work that goes into the U.S. as we think of it today, 330 million people. That's really post 1970s when the population boomed. Just if you look at the graph of U.S. population, it's rising steadily, and then after World War II, it just goes nuts. Specifically in the 70s. Where before that, it was still 50-50, people living in cities, people living in country, which one of the main character, I forget if he's Buck or Bucky, but he reflects that. He's from Idaho or Wyoming or something.
I think that's Buck.
And I think that's important and totally different, where almost all of us listening to this, almost everybody who's going to watch Master of the Air is living in a city or a suburb.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important. Second thing is kind of what you hit on, of the complexity of these machines. And it's kind of hard for us to wrap our heads around, where we all grew up when international flight was a thing, when space flight had already happened.
Mm-hmm.
But this is in people's lifetimes, I can remember flight was not a thing.
Right.
Yeah, there might have been Kitty Hawk, but there were barely planes in World War One. And there weren't planes before that. And now it's we've got these super machines with 4 super engines like one of those engines is like a godsend 20 years ago. And then like all the I think that they touched on this in the first episode where like there was some glitch or a gremlin and they were like taking out fuses and like starting and restarting engines and or batteries and power and stuff, and just the complexity of like all of this and put it in the air.
And then have some like 19-year-old, 20-year-old kids from all over the country that had never flown on an airplane before in their lives. Teach them real quick how to do it all and then get them out there.
Yeah. The part of the setting, and they talked about it at the very beginning of the next episode when they're debriefing everybody, is you're like however many tens of thousands of feet in the air and like minus 50. Mm-hmm. And that comes up when they do that first mission because somebody tries to touch metal.
Yeah, with their bare hands.
That's not good.
Yeah.
That ball gunner, I would have been a ball gunner. I just know it.
You're too tall.
You think so?
Yeah, you had to be probably like 5'5".
Alright, good.
Ish to be a ball gunner.
You're doing a little bit of yoga with your legs like that. Just all the time.
Yeah, those guys were short. But screw that job. Mm-hmm. That's horrible. That would be so scary.
Any of the people that are in there are like the first so many people in human history to like have a bird's eye view. Just like the whole time.
Yeah. So I wanted to back up one thing. At the very beginning of episode 1, that girl that Buck's with, or the guy from Idaho or whatever, the young Val Kilmer is how I think of him.
Funny.
That's kind of what he looks like. That girl's the main girl in 1883.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Good to know.
She's real good. She's a real good actor. What other notes do I have? Oh, one thing that I noticed. So, there's only a handful of real B-17s left in the world, and they can't use real B-17s for most of what they show in there. I did notice in the first episode that they gave those B-17s a little bit more performance than they would have had.
Oh yeah.
Like in that scene where they're coming into Iceland or Greenland or whatever, and it's like super windy. They're talking about like 40 to 50 mile an hour gusts crosswind on the landing.
And he's coming in diagonally.
Yeah, but then so the first plane makes it, but then the second plane gets waved off and has to go again. The angle at which it banked up and then just
it took off.
Yeah, I was like, the B-17s can't do that. Like they like hover up. They can't nose up and then just go.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's not how that works at all.
I was thinking of you when I was watching that. There have only been so many planes designed and built like prior to this period, and how like a F-16, a modern bomber, it's like a bullet that you're like steering because you're just going crazy fast all the time versus like these planes that are like gliders that can like kind of propel themselves.
Yeah.
And how it's just totally different.
Another thing on just the way the airplanes were doing what they were doing when they were doing it. In episode 1, when that one plane had to belly land because its gear wouldn't all come down, it bugged the hell out of me that they didn't cut the engines before touchdown. Like, those engines and props were full speed as it was touching the ground. I'm like, don't do that. Turn those bitches off. Like, get your glide set up and then turn them off.
Don't you have to turn off the fuel anyways?
That's the whole, like,
yeah.
There's a lot of things that I think they missed there. But again, maybe that was also just, like, showing these kids are new at all this. Although, the actual pilots in those planes have, like, multiple hundreds of hours of training before they actually get sent to go fly them for real. But even still, 200 hours is nothing in the world of aviation.
We should talk about the fuel because it comes up in the next episode when they're, like, taking flak and, like, oh, our engine's on fire. Or we are bleeding fuel. And they're like, well, turn the fuel off. And it's like, well, yeah, because you don't want to set the fuel on fire. It seems like it would be, like, a constant thing of just turn the fuel off. Turn the fuel off with the engines.
Yeah.
Is your next thing for episode 2?
No. My next thing was, how do they let someone that's a puker get through training and actually get onto an airplane in missions? Like, if you get airsick like that, he should have been pulled from doing air duty. Like, you can't be puking in the middle of combat in the air.
Mm-hmm.
That made me real mad. I was like... And then I was like, okay, maybe once, maybe it was just nerves, never done it before. But then he pukes again. It's like, oh, come on.
And it's not like it didn't matter. He made a mistake.
Yeah. Another thing
It's Crosby.
that got me, which also... This would never happen these days. That was just back to when it was, but... Now, like, when all the planes are taxiing out to take off to go do their mission, and you have all those, like, ground crew or whatever soldiers, like, in the Jeeps, like, flying, like, inches away from the propellers.
Right.
I'm like, don't do that.
Yes, same.
That made me so uncomfortable. I was like, yeah, I know you want to cheer the guys on, but, like, get 20 feet away at least. Like, 100%. You don't have to, like, be ducking under a propeller. That's just dumb.
Yeah. I definitely felt the same.
And then the only other notes I have for episode 1 are the hands freezing part, which that looked so brutal.
Yeah.
And then also flak is the worst. Like going back to what I said before about this show really puts you in the plane. Like, this show does a better job than anything else I've seen to, like, show you what flying through flak is like. And that's just like, you're just... There's nothing you can do in that situation. You just gotta hope you're lucky enough to just not get hit.
Yeah.
Oh. Man, I never would want to be in the air in combat. That's just the worst.
So I think a big part of the point of these shows is, like, capture the history, tell the history, sure. And it makes for a compelling story that actually happened to real people. Give you kind of the first person view and help you feel the feelings like you're talking about. I think one of the other points of these shows is, like, lessons of war that are timeless. And I think what we got in that realm from the first episode was they fly up there and then they have to face fighters, German fighters. And a huge theme throughout all warfare, including like Russia-Ukraine, is experience versus inexperience. And at that point in, like, was it 43?
Yep.
Like, the Germans dominating Europe, those fighter pilots that were shooting at them have been shooting at planes since 1939. They've got all the experience in the world, and you're going up there for the first time. And you can outnumber them, and you can have cool equipment, but they've also got cool equipment. It might be cooler than your equipment, and even if it's not, if it was, like, designed and built in, like, 36, the fact that those people know how to use those machines to, like, 90 to 100% of their capability.
Yeah.
Whereas you're just, like, in an inferior machine anyways. But then, like, the whole concept of the protection of the multiple machines is that they have to act as if they've been doing this for a long time, and they just have not. That's hugely important. Similar to when Russia invaded Ukraine, it was, like, some huge percent conscripts that were, like, handling weapons for the first time, versus a much smaller number of Ukrainians using U.S. equipment that have been fighting since 2014.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why you get, like, they're outnumbered 10 to 1, and, yeah, they'll retreat after killing, like, tens of thousands of you. Because they have that ability to do so, that you just don't have your 10,000 hours. You're nowhere close.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a huge lesson in war and what the end of episode 1 was trying to show. I got one of these little boba bubbles in the back of my throat.
I wonder how many people die by boba per year.
I don't know, but it will go up my nose. I can feel it. Episode 2.
Yeah. The very first note I have for episode 2, flak sucks again. And also another thing that, just from that in the airplane view that it gives you, the gunners in the planes, like, when they're flying in their groups with their formations, like, it looks like so many of their shots where they're trying to track a fighter are going to hit the bomber that's right behind the other plane.
Yeah.
And I just wonder how many friendly fire deaths there were in the skies back then because of that.
Especially when you're working your way up to those 10,000 hours and you're doing everything for the first time.
Yeah. Like, just being able to think on your feet so fast. Like, you're in a life and death scenario. You're trying to kill a guy who's trying to kill you. But you have to have the presence of mind to, like, lift off the trigger when you're swinging through your buddy's other plane's, like, sight picture. It's wild.
I think they did a good job of showing the German plane just zoom on by. And how it's not if they're far enough away that it doesn't look like they're moving that much, then your bullets aren't reaching them, they're falling.
Right.
And if they're close enough to where, like, what you're aiming at is, like, actually where the bullet's going, they're moving 500 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And they did a good job of that, of, like, zoom. And you just went right to your own plane.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. B-17s, like, I think they'd fly around maybe 220. Mm-hmm. And then you got German fighters going like 500 right by. That's, I mean, you're like sitting still and something goes by you 300 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild. All of it is just, I'm so glad I didn't have to go through it.
Yeah. And you know why the flag stopped.
Yep.
That was good.
I mean, for sure, that's what always happens when the flag stops.
End of season, or episode 1, beginning of episode 2, something I don't think I've ever heard of, but that makes total sense, is interrogation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think they just call that debrief now.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess because there's so many people on board, like, they had to do it all super fast, but
they're like, we have a system to get the maximum amount of information out of you guys. Don't just start chit-chatting.
Right.
That makes sense to me. Like, I could imagine that. I just never heard of it.
Yeah. So again, episode 2, there's more puking. Can't have it. It's got to go.
But then he also saved the day.
But then he saved the day in a big way, which is really cool.
Crosby, his name is. Like Bing!
One thing, so at this point in episode 2, something I kind of started to feel, which we'll just see how it goes, and it might have just been where I was at the time of day, the way the stars were aligning, I don't know. But I didn't almost feel like the actors were really acting period appropriate in some ways. Like, there'd be times when they like lean into something period appropriate, but then there'd be times when I just like thought I'm looking at dudes in 2020, and the way they're chatting and going about things. I don't know. I don't know if you felt that at all, but there was a moment when I kind of was losing the immersion a little bit because I was like, yeah, this doesn't feel right. But again,
you were thinking of specifically, like
no. Might have been around the time when the U.S. and the Brits were in the bar together.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what triggered it. Like, I don't know if it was one specific thing, but it was just kind of like, I don't know. But it could just be because they're all like young dudes, so like, haven't really gotten their ways yet. But, and it's not all the characters either. There's definitely some that are, I don't know, I should have thought about this a little better so I could have spoken about it better.
I like that the New Yorkers are generally raunchier.
Yeah.
Dropping the F-bombs and drinking too much and punching each other.
Yeah.
Whereas Bucky?
Buck.
Whereas Buck is Wyoming, Idaho, whatever. He's pretty...
He's straight edge. No drinking, no gambling, no smoking. Yeah. But then I also have a note about that. Going into him, like, he doesn't like sports. Mm-hmm. And then it finally comes out, like, why he doesn't do anything and he doesn't like sports. And my note here is, you can't be making your children hate sports. That's just... that should be, like, jail time. Like, you can't be traumatizing your children when they're little to just, like, no, I don't like sports.
I was going to go somewhere with that. We were talking about right before that. The period appropriate. Oh, the smoking. Everybody smoking all the time, like in the interrogation. Like everybody, like 6 people around a table, they're all smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, that seems period appropriate.
Yeah. That'd have been a cool experience. And really, the only other note I had was just like noticing that like the episodes are like 10 to 15 minutes shorter than they're actually advertised. There's like there's like 2 minutes in the beginning before it even starts. There's 10 minutes of credits at the end, and then there's like 3 minutes of like here's what's coming next, which are spoilers, which I gotta skip because they're spoilers.
Word.
So like they're all advertised as like hour-long episodes, and they're like 40 minutes, which is fine by me. But that's all I had for the first episodes.
The two things that I think came out of episode 2, the ethical dilemma lesson part, when one of the planes is all jacked up and it can't keep up speed.
Yeah.
The decision has to be made. Do you keep formation with it, meaning you expose the entire wing, you expose everybody to X minutes more, or however much more exposure to fighters?
Right.
Or do you stick with that person and you don't leave them behind? And it's one of those things where either way, like, those are the tough decisions that have to be made. Like, sometimes you do have to let a person drown or lose, like, some part of the ship so that the rest of the ship can go on. Similar with the formation, like, do you see that everybody gets out of the danger zone on time and faster and take care of the welfare and well-being of everybody? Or do you do what they chose to do and slow down, and then it came up immediately, where the fighters came in and went for the weak one, but they were in formation and it was fine.
Yeah.
That would come up on a lane in a training or whatever, and I thought that was cool. Like, I'm looking out for that. Of like, what is the ethical dilemma lesson? Like, what is the thing that they would teach in school now out of this? And then something I thought was cool for the period was that when that guy crash landed in Scotland, like, they get him home to, or they get him safe to Britain at least.
Right.
And then everybody goes on to wherever their air base is in England. He calls and he's like with the Scottish family, and he's like, the Scots don't really like the English, but they love me because I'm Irish. I know my dad would love that. Just like, everybody hates English, even the Scottish, even the people in the British Empire, especially the people in the British Empire. Right. Especially the Scots.
That was a really fun scene.
Yeah.
Like, just seeing him make it and being all safe. Another thing that I just remembered while we were talking, I forgot to write it down, but I really liked the interactions the crew had with those children, like the local children, and like the burning of the oil spot.
Yeah.
Like, just like kind of involving the kids. And like that, they talked about like that crew chief or whatever, he was like a 19-year-old kid, but he's like already being a proper, like, people grew up so fast back then compared to now. Like, I feel like some of those 19, 20, 21-year-olds in that show are like older than I am. More mature than I am.
That's something I think also giving you the experience of what it was like and how it's different. End of the first episode, but then also capturing what you're talking about. When you see the line of planes taking off, and you see that, like, the morale of the soldiers is like the community thing, where it's like everybody's kind of engaged in the war effort, and the war effort is like, you look up in the sky and you see like, oh, today's mission is like 30 bombers with tens of thousands of bombs, and that's something where it's totally alien to the global war on terror, where it's like, we're at war, okay, I'm going to the mall. And just like nobody appreciates that, like, right this second we're projecting force and dropping thousands of bombs on people for the sake of keeping all of us safe. It's totally like hidden from view. That's different. And then the other thing at the end of the episode, they don't end up getting bombed, but like the town down the street or whatever is, and you see the anti-aircraft going up and the searchlights and all that, and conveying that feeling and understanding that you're giving and you're getting. And again, that's 100, or I guess not 100%, but pretty fucking alien to people in the U.S. who we've had hundreds of thousands of soldiers deployed here, there, and everywhere else, and we've been taking bombs and taking combat to the bad guys, to the enemy, like we did it for 20 years during Iraq and Afghanistan, and we're doing it to a much smaller extent to the Houthis in Yemen right now. Like we're constantly giving, and we never get, and that's not how war went for most of humanity. It's certainly not how it went for the British in World War II.
Right.
And that give and get, but then also it's on the continent, it's on the island, it's down the street. You know, when is it coming for me? And I am certain 9/11 was scary for the people in the city of New York. That's kind of the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a wild thing. And then just another thing that I think about. I double check the numbers here, but I knew this figure, but it's one of the can't always hold on to. Throughout the course of World War II, there were 4,735 B-17s lost, shot down, destroyed. There's 10 people per one of those.
Yeah.
So just shy of 50,000 men lost their lives in those airplanes. That's hard to wrap your head around.
They had 350 people in their wing, and they lost 3 planes.
Mm-hmm.
That's 30 people, which is already like 8-9%.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there was a total of, what was it? The total number of B-17s like built and put out in action was 12,732. So we're looking at like, you had a 1 in 3 chance of getting it.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, I don't think it's evenly weighted across the entire time. I think it's probably more at the beginning when they first started, like these years right now that we're watching.
Yeah, well, these numbers are tracking between 1935 and 1945. So I don't think we were using B-17s a ton in 1935.
No.
But
and inevitably they're going to transfer or transition from the Fortress to the Super Fortress.
Yeah. But then, I mean, that's when they go to nukes and do the nuking. But yeah.
It's a pretty alien to us as far as like the fear and the scale. Certainly the scale.
Yeah.
Except for the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
They're kind of doing that right now. Where it's you don't get to go through any like day, certainly not any week, without some kind of reminder that you're facing an existential threat. Terrorism was never an existential threat to us.
Yeah. Just can't believe we can't just be peaceful. We gotta be killing people.
When I think of the Jack in the Box conversations, that's basically the only thing I remember. Is one time asking you like, can't we just get along?
I don't know. I mean, we've never figured it out. Never gonna figure it out.
I would say the internet should be able to bring us all together, but I've seen that it can do the exact opposite.
It's doing the exact opposite.
Yeah.
We're just a very irresponsible species.
I agree with that. Certainly, there's a lot more to be known than most people seem to want to know. Okay, so we'll watch 2 more and we'll talk about it next weekend. And I don't know, you got any plans for this week?
Do I have any plans? I don't think so.
We're probably gonna finish the 3 Body Problem. We watched 3 episodes already.
Mm. Yeah, I'm ready for that to be over. On a separate note, I just want you to be my witness. I meant to show this to you guys yesterday when you came over. But, well, specifically Ashley, but you're going to be my eyes for Ashley.
Okay.
Look how good I've burned this candle.
Oh my god, it's so good.
There's like zero tunneling. Maybe like 0.5%.
I will attest to the apparent and complete lack of tunneling.
Alright. Tell Ashley.
Okay.
Like Kelly's gotten real good at candling. Yeah.
Kelley Patrick Wilson, expert candelier.
Candle burner. I don't make candles, but I can burn them.
Okay. Now I want to call you a candelier, so I gotta make you making candles.
I mean, I've definitely looked into how to get into it, so it's really not even all that expensive.
I have ridden the mighty paraffin. Let's get out of here.
Alright. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, tell your friends, and have a great day.
Bye, guys.